Welcome to Elegance in Every Step. I'm your maitre d', Mary Postlethwaite. We hope you've come famished. We've prepared the finest table just for you. Our special today is Hungry, a dish we've been perfecting for 21 seasons now. Your table is alongside another guest. It might feel a bit unusual. However, we encourage you to dive in and hear their story. Today, we're serving up a conversation about craving the right things in life. Sit back, enjoy a complimentary appetizer. Your host, Neil Matthews, will be along shortly to guide you through today's meal. Bon appetit.
Yes. Welcome in, one and all, other people's shoes. The fine voice of Allie Murphy welcoming you into our table. It feels like a table. It feels like a fine dining restaurant. I don't know about anybody else. That's the one thing I'm still mad about COVID. Okay, there's a lot of things about COVID that I'm sort of mad about still. One of them was, and still feels weird, is going out to dinner. I absolutely loved going out to dinner. And I feel like COVID took that away from me. And now any chance I get, my wife's like, let's go out to eat. I'm like, yes, I love going out to eat. I love sitting down. I love having the ambiance, the conversations. They're just amazing. And maybe in a weird sort of way, that's what podcasting is for me. It's a booth. It's a table. It's a restaurant. I mean, it's not come to the table. Maybe we do have guests that do stop by and do share their story. They say often, you dress to impress. Well, today, I don't know if that's still going to fit. I'm really excited about this conversation. I'm almost curious what will happen with it. Again, we don't script things around here, so we don't know. Hopefully, you have come hungry to hear a story, be challenged, and maybe even a little bit encouraged. Help me welcome in my new friend, Zach. Zach, how are you today?
I'm good, man. I was listening to the intro, and I don't know why, but someone turned off the lights at my table, so I don't know what's up with that. Other than that, I'm good.
Now, you can't start with blind guy jokes already, Zach.
Yeah.
Small but funny story. So when I want to talk about my alter ego, when I want to talk about the guy that didn't do the job on the podcast, by the way, I'm a one-man band, so it's really just me. It's me and Jesus, I say quite often, actually. I need somebody to blame because, in our society, it's easy to blame somebody, right? You point the finger. It's never at yourself. It's always at someone else. So I've created this fictitious person. I call him Zach. So now it's kind of awkward because people are like, well, is this the Zach Neil's been blaming all this time?
And that's extra rude because I'm blind. People are going to be on my side right off the bat.
I know.
You're probably getting yourself canceled is what's happening.
I feel like it. Hashtag canceled. I also got to tell you, you're our second blind person that we've had. So you're not the first. Help me with this as we get going and rolling. And this might sound weird and odd to some. We do this every show. We got to stick with the pattern. We got to stick with the routine. And that's this. What size shoes do you wear?
I have child-sized feet. On a good day, I wear an 8. I think my boots in the Marines might have been a 7.5 wide.
Okay. And
yeah, I'm a whopping 5'7", so I don't have big feet around here.
Do you care about brand or style? Or, do you even care about color? That's so fascinating to me already.
Yeah, I used to be able to see. I still like to look good. So
there you go. All right.
I guess comfort-wise, I'm a Nike guy. I've always been a Nike guy. Athletic-wise, Nikes. I'll wear whatever I need to go with my outfit. I don't get anything crazy. A couple different colors of Vans for more normal clothes. I'm not wearing running shoes everywhere. Leather shoes if I'm speaking somewhere. Nothing crazy.
Vans,
I heard you saying you were a Jordans guy.
I am a Jordan guy. I am absolutely a Jordan guy. That's why I said you're really missing out because you're not seeing the light blue. You're not seeing the Carolina influence.
Are you all
You're
decked
missing
out
all that.
right now?
I am. Yeah, absolutely. I totally am every day. Every day is a Carolina day for me. So I love my heels. We got Bill Belichick now. And let me tell you, I heard a lot of people after we lost to TCU just blowing up my phone telling me how awful Bill Belichick is. I was like, listen, I didn't pick him. I'm just a fan. I didn't pick him. I wasn't in the hiring process, but on to you. You said it already that you're blind. Now, everybody's going to want to know, I'm sure, was he born blind? How does hungry even fit into this equation? And I think it fits perfectly, actually, seamlessly. How you became blind, now you've had to hunger maybe to get back into any sort of normalcy after that incident?
I think what I had told you was I'm hungry to make a difference. As corny as that sounds, I mean, it is very fitting. So I could see, I had a totally normal life until I was 23. I served for 4 years in the Marine Corps as a machine gunner, deployed twice, and Thankfully, didn't see combat. On my second deployment, I found out that my wife was cheating on me. The better part was that I found out from the other guy's wife. I came home from that deployment near the end of 2017 and tried to make things work with her, and it didn't. Shortly after I filed for divorce, I was in a motorcycle accident in March of 2018, acquired a traumatic brain injury from that. Up until that point, I wasn't in a great spot. I was dealing with it. After that, I really started to spiral and became very agitative and impulsive and started struggling with depression. Couldn't sleep, so I started having some drinks before I would go to bed. That kept up for about a year. So that was all in March of 2018. I was honorably discharged in August of 2018 and came back to Colorado and was going to school full time and working full time. Just continued getting into a worse and worse place and keeping up appearances that I was doing all right. That caught up with me. By the time that March of 2019 rolled around, decided I was done. I shot myself in the face on March 31st, 2019, right in between the eyes. And it took all of my sight, all of my hearing in one ear, no sense of smell. I have a lot of nerve damage in my face. I had to have my face reconstructed.
Man, my heart just breaks for you. What gets somebody to the point where they're picking up a gun? You talk about you're hungry to make an impact. You're talking about hungering to make a difference even. That guy didn't exist back then. What happened? How do we get from that guy who's pointing a Glock at his face, hoping to kill himself, to the guy now that sits before me?
That's hilarious because it actually was a Glock. So I don't know if you read that somewhere, but it was a Glock.
I didn't, no.
Okay, yeah. So I have a gently used Glock 19 if anyone wants to buy it. It wasn't a quick turnaround. I was on life support. It was pretty wild. I'd actually decided that I was going to kill myself on March 27th. By the time that March of 2019 had rolled around, I was working full time and going to school full time, getting straight A's and doing really well, pursuing a nursing degree, trying to become an ER nurse and just keeping up appearances. That drinking progressed as my depression did too. And so I was definitely a functional alcoholic by the time that I shot myself. I was stone cold sober on March 27th when I decided that I was going to kill myself. On March 30th, my parents were at my house visiting with my younger sisters and I didn't say anything, continued keeping up appearances. And on March 31st, I was actually recording a suicide video to my family. My roommate came home early and I paused the video and composed myself and went out and talked to him like nothing was wrong, and then went back in my room and shot myself. And I just try and emphasize that. I think people a hard time understanding the fact that by the time that you reach that point, you were just not in a sane state of mind. I had so many things going for me and so many opportunities to change my trajectory simply because I wasn't speaking up. And obviously there was more to it because of the brain injury. There was more to it because I was adding a depressant into an already depressed situation. You're no longer in a sane state of mind and it just feels there's no hope. Suicide is a problem of despair. And that's just where I was. I felt that where I was at was inescapable. And obviously I was wrong, but it took me waking up after being taken off of life support to realize that. It took me off of life support. I was so messed up from the head injury and all the medications that I'd been on that I actually didn't even realize that I was blind. I could have a conversation like we are right now, but I was in another world visually. I was just hallucinating with these very vivid hallucinations. And I was so out of it that people were telling me I was blind and that those things weren't real. I didn't get it. When I finally was with it enough to understand that, and it was clear that I was going to be completely blind for the rest of my life, and my parents and I were discussing what my future might look like. And my mom mentioned like, yeah, it's not all bad. At least you can get a guide dog, because I've always been a big dog person. And my dad was like, you could be a therapist and try and use this to help people. And my mind went back to the only experience that I ever had, like in terms of what a blind person might be capable of. In the Marine Corps chow halls, at least in our areas on Camp Pendleton, there was little fine print on the salt and pepper shakers made proudly by the blind and visually impaired. And so I was like, I'm not making fucking salt and pepper shakers. And my dad was like, what are you talking about? And it's ridiculous that I said that, yes, but like it totally captured where I was going to go. I refused to become a victim to my circumstances, especially because I was the reason that they were there. I wasn't just going to live a life where I was going to go through the motions. I wasn't going to change that just because I was blind now. Mind you, at this point, I couldn't even feed myself or brush my own teeth. I couldn't even pee. Like I literally could not remember how to pee. They had to teach me how to pee again. I had to relearn how to do everything, walking and all that stuff. I decided that I was going to get back out on my own and make an impact with my life. 8.5 months after I shot myself, I was snowboarding again in the Rocky Mountains. A month after that, I was back in college pursuing a clinical psychology degree. Hard as I tried to find proof of a blind nurse somewhere, it's not possible. Like a liability for a blind guy to be running around with needles, poking people. And 6 months after that, by the summer of 2020, I was completely back out on my own. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was figuring things out as I went. And because I had this mission in my mind that I was going to get my independence back and do something with my life. Things were good for a little bit there after that. Like it was constant forward momentum. I was snowboarding and skiing. I suck at snowboarding now. I had to switch to skiing. I was starting to get into kayaking and got into Brazilian jiu-jitsu. All of a sudden, when winter rolled around of 2020, rolling into 2021, it was winter break. I bought my first house. I was living in a city that I didn't know anyone in. I didn't really have anywhere to go because it was COVID lockdowns. Now I didn't have school. And it was just me in my empty house realizing how different everything was and how long it took me to do everything. Part of being blind, things take me a little longer. And especially at that point when it was so new, everything took me so long. And I would burn all the meals that I cooked. And I'd drop something on the floor, then have to crawl around on the floor to figure out where I dropped it. And I'd hit it with my hand and send it shooting across the floor. And so I'd low crawl across the floor again until I could find it. With one ear, I couldn't follow sound to save my life. And the pace of things finally slowed down. And that registered to me just how different and how difficult everything was and how many hoops I had to jump through even just to do basic things like trying to pay my bills. All the websites that my bills were hooked up to weren't accessible. And then people on the phone wouldn't help me circumvent those issues. And it was just, that stuff piles up, especially when you're already not in a good spot. And I finally had to face where I was at. And I still think in those first several months of 2021 that I went through the worst depression that I've ever been through in my life. And that is entirely respective of the fact that I had just shot myself about 2 years earlier. Things built up to the point where I did not want to be alive anymore. I saw what my suicide attempt had done to my family. I was blinded by that despair before I shot myself. I was in so much pain that I didn't see or even have the concept of what me being gone might do to someone else. You're blinded by that hopelessness. Thankfully, I saw that in 2021 and I realized I saw the writing on the wall and realized if I don't speak up, that's where I'm going to go. But I was also terrified that speaking up was going to get me locked up in a psych ward somewhere. I had to make a choice. I think simultaneously while going through the worst depression that I've ever been through, I did the bravest thing that I've ever done. And I spoke up. At that point, I was seeing my psychologist once a week. It was all virtual, again, because it was COVID. And it also eliminates the barrier of me having to get to the VA with not being able to drive. I told her that I did not want to be alive and I did not understand why I didn't want to be alive, that I was not going to kill myself and I had no plan to do so. I could not understand why I didn't want to be here. I just knew I was having these crazy thoughts. So I told her and she didn't call the cops on me. There was no one coming to bust down my door and lock me up somewhere and sedate me until someone deemed me fit to not be there. We went to talking every day and then sometimes multiple times a day because I needed it that badly. You hear people talking about this when it comes to sobriety, that sometimes it is minute to minute and sometimes it was like that for those several months. We got through it. That was the first time that I'd ever actually faced my depression. When I shot myself, that was the byproduct of not having faced it. In those months, I put in the work and I got through it. And that taught me that so long as I made that choice, because it is a choice, just like not speaking up was a choice. And I'm the only one responsible for getting to the point that I was suicidal that first time around. I had the choice to get myself out of it and put in the work. And I saw that it could get better. I think that lesson is largely responsible for why I'm still here with what was to come.
Well, Zach, first off, I want to applaud your courage. I don't know if you're a guy of faith. I don't know. And if you're not, fine. I mean, I'm not throwing rocks. I didn't know this. I'm not on the suicide pulse of suicide awareness. I just Googled really quick because I've heard that there is a movement called Suicide Prevention Month for 2025 that runs in September. The campaign starts September 7th through the 13th. They give it a whole week dedicated to raising awareness, sharing resources, promoting conversations about suicide prevention. Did you know any of those dates?
I knew it was the month of September every year. When you put the feelers out and said it was about hunger, that's why I threw it out there. Like, hey, I don't necessarily fit within the constraints of probably what you're looking for, but metaphorically, I do.
I think you fit right on, like a bullseye.
Yeah.
The suicide Zach on March 31st. I almost want to talk to Zach on March 30th. Where was your friends? Where were the people? And again, I'm not throwing rocks at your family. Please hear me. Your mom and dad seem like amazing people. We have this month for a reason, Suicide Prevention Month. We have it. It doesn't seem like it's stopping suicides from happening. And maybe, again, this is where I'm judgy, perhaps. It just feels like we have this month, we celebrate it, we do some things, we have some conversations, doesn't stop it. If I somehow had mystical, magical Harry Potter powers, and I gave you the power to say, Zach, stop suicides from happening, wanted to be nurse, now you're on the clinical track, which I think is amazing to have the ability to sit with someone in their pain, to walk them through that. You know that firsthand. You've been in those shoes. You can easily say, and I've been there, I've done that. But how would you fix suicides in your mind?
This is how I'm doing it. Talking at people doesn't do it. There was suicide prevention training every year in the Marines, and it's someone reading off of a PowerPoint who doesn't know what they're talking about. They don't care about what they're talking about. It's checking the box. I think these warning signs that are touted commonly aren't very accurate. Realize, as I say this, I'm saying that everyone in these situations that I'm about to talk about deserves the same level of help. I'm not diminishing one side or the other. I'm just saying that they present differently.
And this is your experience because you had these symptoms in a sense.
No, so this is what I'm saying is I didn't have these warning signs.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, great.
No, so let me break this down for you. What I'm trying to say is the warning signs that are typically talked about are someone's making obscure comments to their friends that the world might be better off without them, or they're giving their things away and they're making posts on Facebook and they're starting to make a will and texting people weird things. When it comes to this problem, that's representative of half of the population going down that path. But I think that is a population of people who think that they want to die. These things present as them trying to get help. They don't know that that's what they're doing, but those are cries for help. Sometimes, thankfully, that is able to alert people to step in. But like I hid it, like I said, until the very last minute. And I intentionally hid it because I did not want anyone to stop me. That also happens a lot. And that is entirely unrepresented by these supposed warning signs. For anyone to see that I was headed down that path, and again, I'm not putting blame on anyone. The only blame that is deserved is on me. I did hide it, decided to drink my pain away instead of talk about it. You would have to be very, very dialed in to me to realize that I was headed down that path. And again, I was doing everything to keep up appearances that I could, work, school, doing really well. I would drive 2.5, 3 hours up to the mountains with all my snowboarding gear just to try and force myself out of the house. That was something that I always loved to do. And I would get there and still not want to be there. So I would sit in my truck for a couple hours before I drove home so that it looked like I went snowboarding. I did the same thing, taking my dirt bike to the racetrack. And I was running covert operations so that people would not see where I was at. And so that's why I try and talk about this stuff. There's a good chance someone listening to this is kind of on that cusp where they know something's off and maybe they haven't gone that far down the road, but this is what they need to hear to snap out of it and be like, okay, I need to go get help. I think I told you before we started recording, I gave a big speech last night for a nonprofit called Project Healing Waters. And at the end of this happens often when I speak, at least one person will come up to me after the end of everyone else who's coming up. And our conversation when we were talking will end in tears because they are struggling and didn't realize it, or finally feel like they need to speak up, or they just needed someone to talk to. And that now happens to be me. And then I can at least be there to listen and see if they just needed someone to vent to right now, or if they are in a crisis, or if they need other services to get connected to try and see the kind of stuff that helped me. You have to have these conversations, man, outside of just talking at people and reading out of a textbook or off of a PowerPoint. It's hard and it's such an uncomfortable subject. At the end of the day, there's so many people out there that want to help people who are struggling. No one can do that until they know that those people are struggling. And that's where it's this weird paradox of you have to get those who are struggling to recognize that they are in that bad of a spot and see that there is a way out so that they will say something.
You have to get in their shoes.
Yeah.
That's why I love this show. Is the whole premise is we're in your shoes. That's why I asked, embarrassingly admitting maybe about your shoe size and your brand of shoes. If you just said Jordans, by the way, it would have warmed my heart.
I could have said I wore a size 10.
You could have. It's fine. you didn't want anyone to stop you. Why?
Because it truly felt inescapable. Like I fully believed that by the time that I reached that point, I thought that it was inescapable. You know, there was a time there where I thought what I was experiencing was just, you know, this is what it feels like when your wife cheats on you and you get divorced at 22. Now you're out of the Marines and you're kind of going through some life changes, and it'll get better. I brute forced my way through things in the Marines, and it served me well. I didn't take into account real depression or brain injury. The world just got so drawn in that it couldn't see clearly. It seemed inescapable when, again, all I needed to do was speak up. And it's not like that would have solved the issue immediately. Then I would have had access to people who are willing to help. And it's not like it's a fast or an easy or comfortable process. I used to sweat. My shirt would be soaked through with sweat, even just talking about stuff with my ex-wife. And then for a long time, I couldn't talk about any of this stuff. Been through work, and that's been healing. I could have gotten through that had I spoken up. But I was just so out of touch with things because I was in so much pain, and continuing to add alcohol to the mix most evenings, that kind of plays the role of a multiplier as well.
Would you say the pain blinded you?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like cliche because I'm blind.
I was going to say, not to be like funny either. I'm not trying to be jokey.
No, I know. You're good. Yeah, I mean, it does. And that's why if you stop and think about this, any biological organism on this earth, our programming inside of our genes and our instincts and everything that expresses as behaviors. Yes, in humans, it gets a little more complex than this. If you simplify everything to its base, every biological being on this earth, the first instinct is self-preservation. And then longer term is to pass along your genes. Killing yourself flies in the face of all that. And those are basal instincts that are in every living thing on this earth. And that's why I say you are just no longer in a sane state of mind. It makes zero sense for you to be able to get to that place. It serves no purpose evolutionarily, obviously, because it ends your genetic line. It is an entirely warped scope of the world. It's not rational. I mean, depression is not rational.
What do you miss most about seeing?
I really don't think about it a lot, man. I know that sounds crazy.
It doesn't sound crazy at all. I just was curious.
I have such a cool freaking life now. This is just my new normal. Usually when it comes up for me, this thing would be easier. This thing wouldn't take me an hour to do. It would take me 10 minutes or something like that. I don't struggle with it. So it's not like this preeminent thing in my mind. I know that probably sounds crazy being on the other side of it. It's not something that I think about.
I've been married for 24 years. I would miss seeing my wife's face in the morning. I would miss seeing other things about my wife. I won't go into that just because she might listen and be embarrassed, but she knows what I'm talking about.
That was going to be my first answer when you asked what I missed. It's this thing though, like you can't, very big. And
I would miss sunrises and sunsets. I mean, that doesn't make me a dude. Probably going to have to give up my guy card. I would miss watching football. I mean, there would be so many things I would miss seeing.
You can't focus on what you can't do though, man. It's the reason focusing on the cans and not the can'ts. Had I focused on that stuff, I don't think I ever would have gotten to the point where I could enjoy all of these insane things that I get to do now. There's a natural grieving process. I struggled most with losing my independence. That was my biggest thing. Having other people do things that deprived me of my independence after I had worked so hard to get it back. A huge part of what led me to where I am now. That is still like a hot button thing for me. Like when these barriers get in the way. That's why I ended up dropping out of college to teach myself how to code, and how I ended up as an entrepreneur now doing what I do. And that's also what kicked off my alcoholism after I was blind, that led me down 2.5 years of just horrendous alcoholism and stuff that came up along the way. It was always coming back to focusing on the things that I could do and how I could make a difference. Ultimately reestablishing my purpose through all of these things that I've done, reestablishing a sense of identity. And I'm okay with this new life. Like, yeah, life would be easier if I could see. Back to the choice thing. Perspective is a choice, and it is everything. It's very easy to get stuck in that. Yes, there should always be a grieving phase for things, and you should allow that for yourself, but you have to pick yourself up and get out of that. Like, such a toxic place to sit, and that doesn't help anybody. Again, yes, you have to allow yourself your time for that, but you can't let yourself just sit in it and not move past it. Having your sight, not having had to adjust to not having it is, I understand that. You know, that's another thing where I think having lost it all at once was probably easier than someone who has to lose it from a genetic disease over a period of years.
You lost it over time. I don't know what I would want. Do I want it all at once or do I want it over time? I think
it's the devil that you know.
I think
It totally is.
I think I would have to say over time. That's my final answer. Zach, when you hear this question, what are you hungry for? What comes to mind?
I meant it when I said making a difference. And that's in both in this way of sharing this. I've seen that this saves lives. On the software development front, this is my other big driving force is in my college, about a year and a half into my degree, stopped making all of my course content accessible to me. And so I was no longer able to pursue my education independently. And I started researching what caused these accessibility issues and how come I couldn't pay my mortgage, but how come I could pay my electric bill, and how come I couldn't do my math homework, but I could do my English and psychology homework. And I found out that it all came down to the code running behind the scenes of every piece of software that I used. So I dropped out of college to become part of the solution. And I started teaching myself in October of 21. It's also when I picked up booze and went through that 2.5-year stint, during which I was also diagnosed with an incurable terminal genetic disease called Huntington's disease that will ultimately reduce me to a vegetative state at some point in my life. That whole time, even at its worst, after I got diagnosed with Huntington's disease, my drinking got so bad that I was going on binges for 2 or 3 days straight and just being blacked out the entire time. Yes, I know that anytime I drink is technically a blackout, but I wasn't
going to make the joke. I wanted to, but I wasn't going to make the joke.
And I would recover for 2 or 3 days and I would do it all over again. I kept teaching myself how to code. And my first piece of software came out on the 4th of July in 2023. It was just a word puzzle game. It looked and functioned normally for people without disabilities. It was accessible to virtually every physical disability. And it did it all dynamically. It was the same piece of software, and looking at it, you would never know that there was anything special about it. It would infer from device settings and make these adaptations for people that gave them the same access to the world that sighted people had or non-disabled people had. So if you were legally blind, it would reduce animation motion so that things were easier to follow and increase the font size and make the colors higher contrast. And if you were totally blind, it would be able to be read aloud by your screen reading software. And I'd use vibrations called haptics to communicate other information that would typically appear visually on screen, or have these other context clues that were only available to screen reading software to read, not visually anywhere else. Or if you were totally blind and totally deaf, you could use my software with electronic braille displays. Or if you were paralyzed from the neck down and had no use of your hands, you could use it with your voice. And through the rest of that year, I was getting these messages from people and hearing the impacts that it was having on them. And it started to change me. I went from not being able to be sober for more than 3 days to all of a sudden I got a month, and then I fell off the wagon. And then I got 2.5 months together. And then I had my last drink on December 5th of 2023. And at the same time, at the end of that year, I won 2 Game of the Year awards specifically for all of the accessibility features that I just mentioned. That was a proof of concept for me that I could do this thing, because I figured if one blind drunk could make this award-winning business by himself, including handling all the visual sides of things, having never written a line of code, when I could see that I could make something with a much bigger impact and on a much larger scale and a much longer term project. March of 2024, I've been working on a new business that will have much wider reaching implications. I don't want to fully talk about it right now because tell you about it when it's out. But I wrote a book last year and am working through another rewrite right now. Hopefully that'll be out in the next year as well. I just had my editor rip it apart for the first time. These are the 2 big things for me where I'm, in terms of making a difference for other people, like it is eliminating all of these hoops that people have to jump through. It's hard enough to have disability. With everything being digital, you shouldn't be shut out from half of the world. Whatever your disability is, you shouldn't have to jump through those extra hoops in addition to all of the extra added difficulty that comes with just living your daily life. Trying to share my story in a way that gets people having some of these conversations. And like now you're more aware of suicide than you ever have been. And probably it sounds like some of the other mental health stuff. Other people listening will be too. And maybe they'll start having conversations about it. And it's these conversations that will walk people away from the ledge, give people the sense of, my husband isn't showing overt warning signs that I just talked about, but he's been pulling away and he's not doing the things that he used to love. And he's been drinking a little bit. He's been really snappy with me. And I need to to be direct with him and ask, I'm worried about you because of X, Y, and Z things. And I need to know, are you planning on hurting or killing yourself? You have to be direct like that. And it's these having an impact in both of those spaces is huge for me. And so is also like all of the other things that I do with the skiing and rock climbing and surfing and whitewater kayaking and these other things, like showing other people with disabilities that there are other ways forward. You can pave a path for yourself to do things that people think that you can't do and start to change the narrative around these things. Like all of these things are hugely passionate about because I think they can have such a big impact on people's lives. There's never one solution to things. And hopefully the combination of these different areas can have a meaningful impact on as many people as possible.
Biggest pet peeve of your condition currently that you run into?
Things being inaccessible digitally. Like it's everywhere, man. It's ridiculous. All right, a website is entirely inaccessible. So I'll call tech support to try and get them to help me set up auto pay instead, and they won't help you. So then it's like, now I have to bother someone that I know to take time away from their family after they get off work after a long day to come over here and help me set up a freaking auto pay on my computer. Something so simple. That's so silly. It's not just that way with one thing. That is every day that there's something like that. And it's most apps and it's most websites where there's those barriers like that. And it's so silly. And because I know how to fix it, it bothers me even more. I can make software that visually appears to someone who can see it looks nice. The least you could do, it's way harder for me to do that than it is for you to add some extra data to make it accessible to a screen reader or whatever other technology it is. It's just, it drives me nuts.
How do people treat you normally in like day-to-day life that aren't necessarily in your quote unquote circle?
I've become more aware of this in the last like 2 or 3 years. I have 2 sisters that are way younger than me. One of them has Down syndrome. And so I grew up around disability my whole life. So it doesn't weird me out. I think a lot of people who haven't been around it are uncomfortable by it. You can tell because then they're weird around me. And it takes a while. Typically, it takes a while for me to get past that point with people, even with me making blind jokes as much as I can and other things. It's like sometimes it feels like people don't know if they're allowed to laugh or like I think they're afraid to offend me.
Guilty.
It's that kind of stuff. And then it's also, there's the other side of it where people will talk to me really loud and that's not very common. Hey man, I said I'm blind, not deaf. Like what? Or talk really slowly to me like I'm cognitively impaired. It's not uncommon for people who are born with visual impairments to have other disabilities along with that. Thankfully, I don't. Probably where some of that stuff comes from too. It's hit or miss, but a lot of people, you can tell they're uncomfortable until I can kind of put in the work to break the ice, which sometimes takes a long time.
So I often ask people on my show, like if they could go back in time and change some things, would you change what happened?
It's a tough one. I wouldn't be doing any of the things that I'm doing right now. Like I am legitimately content with my life. And I almost said I'm hungry to do bigger things. I would have been a good ER nurse, and that's what I would be doing right now. I would have been good at it. I would have done what I do, but I'm having a bigger impact now. And so it's kind of hard to say that I would take it back. And I have a really good life. I still struggle. I had 2 or 3 months earlier this year where it was the worst depression that I've had since 2021. I've learned the coping skills over the years. And that part of that was probably weaned myself off of my antidepressants back in October. And the last time that I did that was actually preceding that depressive episode in 2021. So I don't know how much of it is that. All things considered, like I'm in a good spot and I'm happy with what I'm working on now.
Well, if we were friends, I don't know, are we allowed to call each other friends now, Zach?
Yeah, you laughed at my blind joke, kind of.
Okay,
So
fair enough. We're in the group. If I laugh at the blind jokes, I'm a friend. Everything you're saying sounds great. It really does. It sounds amazing. I mean, some of the stuff you're talking about doing, I can't even do, and I can see and I can hear. But the thing that gets me that I keep wondering about is before you did the suicide attempt, it seemed like all things were well. I mean, yes, you had the divorce, and say I'm not dismissing that by any means. Horrific and awful. Sounds terrible. Anytime there's infidelity in a relationship, I've talked to so many people through the years on the show and outside the show that have experienced that. And it's rough.
Yeah.
It's hell. The idea that things seemed to be going well, even you said it. I was on a good track. I was going to school. I was doing all these things, but I was hiding. So how are you not hiding now?
I actually never had someone ask that. I totally get where you're coming from. And I think that
and I say it from a friend standpoint, not an attacking. I want to be clear.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
okay.
I know.
All right. I just want to be abundantly clear. Like I'm not trying to pinpoint your story or diminish you in any way. Yeah, I just know that, again, people who have said or who have walked the suicide road, all things seem to be fine. And then all of a sudden they're not. And we find them that they've taken their life.
And that's that thing where the overt warning signs aren't always, a lot of times they're not true. A lot of times people are shocked by suicides, and it's because those overt warning signs weren't there. And that's why I try and highlight that that's not always the case. I see what you're saying. The fact that, don't you think I would have finished myself by now? I put in the work to get sober. I got diagnosed with Huntington's disease in 2022. The other side of that is, I could be lying to you right now. I'm not. This is that other thing that I talked about, where at the end of the day, it is on the individual. Sadly, it is on the individual who is struggling to speak up. I was in a bad spot earlier this year. I wasn't suicidal. That never crossed my mind, but I was not doing well. I was not doing well. But I was telling the people that were close to me knew that, and I was talking to people about it. That's a change in my life that I've been very intentional about.
Yeah, I don't think you're lying, to be clear.
Yeah.
I don't think you're lying. You don't strike me as someone that's lying. What is so fascinating about your story is you've had all this mess. You've had all this junk. You've had all of these reasons in the world to end it. As I heard it said years ago, suicide is selfish. And then I sat with a mom who lost her daughter to suicide. Then I sat with another mom who lost her son to suicide. And I asked them both that question. And nobody seems to be able to have an answer on that. And again, I don't know if there is a right or a wrong answer on that. In your mind, Zach, is suicide selfish?
I think it's a complex issue. And I used to think that it was. I just outright thought that it was. I have suicide on both sides of my family and murder-suicide on one side of my family. I had very strong opinions on it. And I also had very strong opinions on speaking up. I thought that was weak. And look where that got me. I still understand that viewpoint. But at the same time, I literally did not have the capacity to see outside of the hell that I felt that I was in at that point. And I know that I'm not alone in that. That is where people end up when they're at that point, and you are not in a sane state of mind. To that extent, and I don't know, maybe me saying that is me subconsciously trying to just justify that what I did wasn't selfish. I don't know. That's a largely subjective thing that people have to make decisions on, and their own views of the world, like so many other things. But at the same time, I've seen the other side of it. My mom and I no longer have a relationship. She told me that I owe her an apology for shooting myself. I entirely disagree with that, because that is making the place that I was in and me being in that bad of a spot to the point where I didn't want to be here anymore. That's making it about her. And so that's the other side where I view that from, is where when people say it's selfish, is that making that person's struggles about you, the person saying that? Is that what that is? I don't think it's selfish. But again, my bias might be that subconscious one where I'm like, maybe I don't want to see that in myself. I don't know. I really just going through it and being on the other side of it, and especially being there in 2021, did not understand why I didn't want to be here. I just didn't want to be alive, and it made no sense. I had accomplished everything that I wanted up until that point. I had my independence back and all that stuff. It didn't make sense that I didn't want to be here. And I wasn't drinking through that, thankfully. It's such a complex issue that I don't know where I know where I sit. I just don't know if that's an objective answer. I think seeing both sides of it, the way that I just laid it out, is also important for other people to make their own decisions on it. I guess with what I just said, what do you think with both sides of it?
It's hard. It's hard for me to answer. It really is. I used to have the mindset that it was. Absolutely. You asked me 7 years ago almost, before I started my show, I would have unequivocally answered yes, 100%. Suicide is selfish. It's the most selfish act you can do. After now 6, almost 7 years of doing my podcast, my perspective has been shifted. I don't know if it's selfish anymore. All I know is that individual, whoever they may be, is in a trauma, a darkness, I would even say an evil that I can't understand. I think it takes a special certain person to pull them out of it. And I think it takes a person to be pulled out of it. Every account I've heard of, at least.
For it to be selfish, don't you have to be thinking of yourself?
Yeah.
That's not what you're doing when you're on that cusp. You're looking for an escape from yourself.
Yeah, you hate yourself that much, you're going to end your life.
Not even hating yourself. Yeah, so I don't know that fits that bill. I've thought about that a lot. This is something that comes up a lot, and I've just on my own thought about it a lot. I don't think that it is.
Do you hope to have kids someday?
I don't know. So with the Huntington's disease,
sure,
it's a 50-50 shot. If I pass it along with in vitro, they can make sure that I don't pass it along. If I was going to have kids, I would only do it that way. I don't think that it's ethical to risk passing that along. If I meet the right lady and we reach that point, I think I would have a lot to teach a kid to hopefully make them a well-rounded human being, which is what all parents should want to do.
We're going to put you on the singles website is what you're telling me? We can do that?
Yeah.
Hey, single ladies. Numbers are available in the show notes. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding. We're not giving out your number.
Be on the other people's shoes calendar.
Yeah.
Topless. Yeah.
That would be awful. Let's not do a men of other people's shoes calendar. That seems like a terrible idea, Zach. Terrible idea. Well, Zach, as we wrap up, again, I know we just met and we traded some stuff on Facebook and Messenger. And by the way, I'm impressed by your corresponding. Mind-blowing to me when I was like, is he partially blind? Is he all the way? Maybe he's seeing some of it. To know that all that corresponding was happening basically by you verbally communicating to your phone. So maybe this is my silliness question. We'll maybe play our game together just so it's kind of fun and maybe some levity. Is there a better phone? I'm a brand guy. Is there a better phone that is more equipped and more enabled for people that maybe do struggle? What is that?
It's the iPhone. That's not like a tech fanboy thing. That is literally, Apple has a screen reader called VoiceOver built into all of its hardware, and that has all sorts of other stuff for people who can't use their hands and people who are low vision instead of just totally blind and stuff like that. There's all sorts of stuff baked into there. So it's in all their hardware products. Like if you have an iPhone, you could turn on your screen reader on there right now, and it's free.
I have dyslexia, so I don't write super well. Yes, ChatGTP is my best friend, my new best friend. I have for years highlighted the emails that people send, and I listen to them, and then I'm like, oh, okay, that's what they're saying. Sometimes when I'm reading it, I misread what they say, or sometimes when I'm typing, I mistype what I'm saying, and I'm like, I meant to say that didn't happen, and then it ends up being saying that did happen. I'm like, no, I didn't. No, that actually didn't. It's very confusing for people.
You're telling the truth because you said ChatGTP. It's ChatGPT.
I don't know what it is. I just call it the chat. But I love the chat. I appreciate it. Yeah, I love the chat. I think the chat's amazing.
Yeah.
It's only going to get better. And I'm cheap. I have the free version. So if anyone wants to sponsor the show, I'd love to get the pro version. But Zach, I think it's kind of weird. Let's play our game together. As I told you in the preliminary before we started recording, well, maybe even while we were recording, I said that my fictitious name for my guy that does my voicing of our game is named Zach. And so it seems weird to say Zach, take it away. Anyway, here we go. Zach, the voice guy, is going to take it away. So Zach, take it away.
It's now that time in the show to play the fastest growing game in the podcast world. We call it Heel Hustle. Today our guest will try to answer all 6 of these questions in 60 seconds or less to win a prize from our prize closet. Audience, feel free to play at home. Let's put 60 seconds on that clock. Ready, set, hustle!
The game begins in 3, 2, 1.
All right, Zach, who is your childhood crush?
Oh, God. I don't know. I can't remember. Yeah, I don't know. Katy Perry. We'll say that.
All right. Katy Perry it is. What's your secret talent?
I can do everything with my eyes closed.
It's terrible. One person you would trade places with for a year.
God, I don't know. I don't want to. Katy Perry.
All right. What's the weirdest job you've ever had?
I guess being a machine gunner in the Marines. It was kind of unique. Damn.
Yeah, it's all right. Biggest risk you've ever taken? Coming on this podcast.
Probably whitewater kayaking, completely blind.
That's insane to me. Who needs a hug right now from you and why?
Oh, oh gosh, a big German Shepherd somewhere because I freaking love dogs.
What's the dog's name?
I don't have one, but I'm just saying.
You're saying
if there was a
fictitious
German
one.
Shepherd out, that is where my big hug would go. I love dogs.
We just got a cockalier King Charles, and his name is Tramp from Lady and the Tramp. And he is in the studio today. Tramp is laying next to the door. He is chilling in the studio, and I keep thinking he's going to get into stuff because I have all kinds of toys and trinkets and galore, and he is just making himself at home. So I have a chair, a comfy chair that he was sitting in, and now he's sitting on the ground again. So, well, Zach, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way? If somebody wants to know more of your story, more of your coding work, all the things the Zach ecosystem, I would even say, what's the best place?
There are two big places. So I have my website at zachtidwell.com. That's where you can reach out for me to speak, or if you want me to come on another show, or if you have questions about anything. I also have a mailing list sign up there. It is not a spam list. I've had this thing for over a year and I haven't sent out any emails yet. It is specifically just so I can keep people up to date with when the book comes out and send out some deals for people who are on the list when it does come out. Outside of that, if you Google me, you'll find me. I think I'm at Zach C. Tidwell kind of everywhere. I also have a podcast called Going In Blind with Zach Tidwell that is everywhere. If you Google my name, stuff should come up.
That's awesome, man. I just want to say thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate all that you shared. And I'm serious about this. I'm glad that you chose to live. I mean that.
I am too. So thank you.
All right, guys and gals, kids and campers alike, that is it. That is all. That is, in fact, our show today. Wow. I don't even know where to start to end this thing. What do I say? Listen, I've had people for the last, 4 years or so, maybe longer, who've said, Neil, you need to do video. You need to do video. Neil, you need to do video. And I'm like, no. So I'm going to say it again. No. Season 21. No, we're not doing video. Here's why. I want you to use your imagination. I want you to use your ears first. I know this is going to shock some. I was slow to speak. Truly, as a child, I was like developmentally slow. I didn't talk for like 2 years or something. I don't know. My mom will fact check me. I had to go to speech therapy to learn how to talk. I know some of you are like, man, I wish you never learned how. Yeah, I feel that. But my granny, God rest her soul, used to say to me quite often when I was in trouble, Neil, you need to listen twice as much as you speak. Listen first, speak second. So many pious little things you can say. Are you really hearing the world around you? Not just looking at it, but are you hearing what people are saying? I didn't know it's Suicide Prevention Week this week. I didn't plan that. But I have a feeling somebody greater than me knows that somebody's supposed to hear this today. So will you do me a favor? Put it in their ears. Put it in their path. He almost took his life. That means something. And now he's hungering for making a difference. Help him do that. Would you please? Let me know. Maybe you're in those shoes. If you are, reach out. I don't have all the answers, but I can be a friend. I can do that. Let me know. opspodcast.com is a great place to let me know. You can let us know on the socials at OPS Podcast Show under Facebook, Instagram, and X. It is so important to remember this. Remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. Stay tuned till next week when guess what? That's right. We're going to walk in other people's shoes.